Now, from the Emmy Award-winning News Center for Northern California, this is News Center 4 Update.
This is what it looks like tonight along the coast of North Carolina. The deserted streets of small towns, doormats for the cutting edge of Hurricane Diana. Good evening. Tonight, an estimated 100,000 people have fled their homes as the winds and rains of Hurricane Diana batter the eastern seaboard. The town of Wilmington is a virtual ghost town tonight, with almost nobody sticking around to find out where the full force of that hurricane would hit. Signs broke free and clattered down the pavement. Trees bent, power poles snapped, yielding to the 100-mile-an-hour winds. Thousands weathering the storm in Red Cross shelters, making the best of crowded conditions.
Why panic? It ain't going to do no good.
I think the Lord will take care of us wherever we are.
But we've been on alert on this since last Friday. So we've been preparing and getting everything organized as to what we would need and what we were going to do.
Outside the shelter, emergency crews and the National Guard are on duty as the streets fill with water. Miraculously, there are no reports of injuries. However, the biggest danger may still lie ahead.
Paul, forecasters expect the full force of the hurricane to hit land within the next few hours. It is an erratic storm. Earlier today, it was sending 15-foot waves crashing onto the shore and was moving briskly up the coast. But now, its progress has slowed to a crawl. In the last 6 hours, the storm has moved only 10 miles and is centered 20 miles southeast of Wilmington. News Center 4's Mark Thompson has been keeping tabs on the hurricane. Mark, what is the latest?
We don't know much. I want to show you a series of satellite pictures to kind of track its progress through the course of the day. Come with me to the map, and you'll see that all today, in fact, we talked on the early show about how this situation really was very unpredictable. It remains unpredictable at this hour. Diana paralleling the coast through the day, and now for the first time beginning to touch land with some heavy winds. Now, the winds at the center are 135 miles an hour. However, the winds that are hitting land are about 115 miles an hour, so you hear reports of winds that are perhaps a little bit higher that are actually touching coastal areas. Still, obviously, those are very damaging winds. What's going to happen in the next few hours? Well, it's very tough to say. The storm has really stalled. It's not moving for all practical purposes at all. There's no way to really know what it's going to do. If it moves onshore, it will break up, but obviously bring a lot of heavy winds and high winds and heavy rains with it. However, if it moves out to sea, that would be the best news. This is what I really wanted to show you. The radar, you can see the center of the storm still offshore. A lot of the rain and the high winds already touching shore. Relatives in Greensboro, Charlotte, Fayetteville, these are areas that are still inland, away from the brunt of the storm. That's good news. We'll continue to keep an eye on this and update later this half hour. Russ?
Thank you, Mark. One footnote to this story, a sad irony, a different hurricane. Hurricane Donna caused $1 billion damage and killed 50 people along the same stretch of coastline 24 years ago today. Well, the power is back on around the Monterey Peninsula tonight. That was not the case earlier today when an explosion rocked PG&E's power plant at Moss Landing. A circuit breaker at the plant exploded, touching off a fire that completely shut down the facility. Almost 250,000 people lost power. Monterey and Salinas were 100% blacked out. PG&E scrambled to redistribute electricity loads and bring in power to the Monterey Bay area from other places. Within hours, most of the people were back online. But the question right now is, what caused it?
It's true, the Moss Landing plant is an older generating facility. Again, as to why it happened, after all of the mop-up is done, then our people will go back in and they will examine the equipment in which the problems occurred to try to make a final assessment on just what it was that created the problem.
That, of course, the PG&E spokeswoman. There were some concerns about PCB contamination. The oil in the circuit breakers contains PCBs, but PG&E says the amount is not dangerous.
Nearly 100 inmates in a maximum security area of San Quentin went on a rampage earlier today. They flooded their cell block, they set fires, and they threw around just about anything they could get their hands on. One staff member was slightly injured. Tensions at that state prison in Marin have reached tinderbox proportion this year. In fact, there have been more than 170 violent attacks behind prison walls, more than 3 times the number that took place just last year. 2 men who terrorized an Oakland couple headed for prison tonight. This afternoon, they were sentenced to a combined total of 88 years in jail. They are Raymond Moore, who is shown here, and Kelvin White. 2 months ago, Moore and White were convicted of breaking into the couple's home. They beat and tortured and robbed the couple, raped the woman. Today, Moore was sentenced to 50 years and White to 38. A 3rd man convicted in that case will be sentenced on Friday. It's a fear that I guess most of us have in the back of our minds. That is, the fear that the elevator we're riding in simply won't work. It's a fear that is out in the open at this building on Turk Street in San Francisco. Tenants say there have been problems with the elevators here for months. The cars don't stop level with the floor. They slip, even crash.
2 pregnant women were in the elevator, and they both got hurt.
What did the elevator do?
The elevator dropped from the 8th floor all the way into the middle of the 1st and the lobby floor.
Just plunged straight down?
Just plunged.
Now the tenants are suing. Their lawyer says the repairs made never last, and that all the tenants want are safe, reliable elevators.
Tenants are really afraid to use the elevator.
Why are they afraid?
Well, because of the past instances. If you were in an elevator that just suddenly did a free fall, and then it's fixed again by the same people who fixed it before, and you're told everything's secure, how safe would you feel?
On New Year's Day, an 8-year-old Vietnamese boy was found crushed to death in one of the elevator shafts in this very building. The landlord here, Gunter Carlson, he's been under fire for months now for various problems at his properties all over the city.
San Ramon teachers will be back in school tomorrow, but they still have no contract, and they may walk out again. Substitute teachers manned classrooms today while striking teachers picketed outside. Low attendance forced officials to send students in the district's 3 high schools home early. Administrators say today's walkout was a costly one for the teachers.
Seems somewhat counterproductive to have a strike and to lose money and then to ask for salary schedule increases.
So this could end up coming out of their pocket.
Well, it will. The day that they are out will be deducted from their annual salary, and in addition, there will be less money for salary schedule increases this coming year.
Teachers will be back in their classrooms tomorrow in what they describe as a good faith gesture. But if they're not satisfied with progress in tomorrow's negotiations, they say they will be back on the picket lines again on Thursday. Those negotiations are set to begin at 9 a.m. in Concord. And the deadlock in the San Francisco restaurant strike continues. Striking culinary workers have broadened their walkout to include 17 of the city's finest restaurants. Today, they added Fisherman's Grotto No. 9 and Jack's to their strike list. But in the meantime, some union members who don't want to strike are petitioning to decertify the union. Union officials call the effort strike busting. They say if there is no progress at the negotiating table, more restaurants will be struck by this weekend.
Different kind of strike. A frightening, vicious attack by a giant grizzly bear left a Bay Area woman and her companion injured and very lucky to be alive tonight. 26-year-old Frances Lorden of Atherton wheeled off a jetliner that brought her back from Glacier National Park. 6 days ago, she and camping companion Robert Hilgoss were mauled by a 6-foot grizzly bear.
We rolled around each other and I got up, and that's when he bit me on the leg, and he went for another one. I hit the ground and rolled up. And he kind of pounced on me, and then he took 2 bites at my back, and then he kind of hovered over me and growled. Then my boyfriend screamed, and he went towards him in the tree again. That kind of gave me a chance to get to the trees.
Fortunately, that attack came near a campsite, and help was near. Francis said they've been warned about bear attacks, but like a lot of campers, they never really thought it could happen to them. Tomorrow, Francis goes into Stanford Hospital for some surgery. That grizzly, incidentally, that attacked her has not been found. Park officials think that tranquilizer darts, which the scientists use to study the bears, are provoking the bears to attack more this year.
They were both so very lucky. As we continue on our late-night edition of News Center 4 Update, the Pope tells young Canadians to resist the temptation. We will have the latest on his historic tour.
And salvage workers are battling gale force winds in their efforts to get a radioactive cargo off a sunken freighter. We'll have the latest on that when we continue.
When you're next away from home and in need of a little help, it's worth remembering British Airways has people in more places than any other airline.
Smoking or non-smoking?
Non-smoking. British Airways, the world's favorite airline.
All parts Putin, the Scout for red station wagon?
Mabel, honey, that's a camper. That's a truck. Let's go find out.
Introducing Trooper 2, the go anywhere, be anything truck from Isuzu. And because it's an Isuzu, you know it's tough and reliable. The Isuzu Trooper 2, it's all you'd ever want in a station wagon, a camper, a truck.
Morning, boys. See you right on time for services.
Morning, Miss Emma.
The Isuzu Trooper 2 from 8683 at your local Isuzu dealer.
My dandruff shampoo is good.
Maybe you should try something else. My dandruff shampoo really works.
Maybe you should try something else, like Selsun Blue. Doctors and pharmacists recommend Selsun Blue more than all other leading brands combined. It's #1. What that means to you is no leading brand gets rid of dandruff better than Selsun Blue. Ask your doctor or pharmacist, or try it yourself. That's all the proof you'll need. Selsun Blue. It's #1.
Angry reaction coming out of San Francisco's gay community tonight after revelations that the FBI infiltrated and spied on gay and lesbian organizations for 30 years. San Francisco is one of 8 American cities where FBI agents were ordered to spy on gays even though there was no evidence of wrongdoing. Those orders apparently came from then FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover. The FBI office here won't comment, but gay leaders will.
And then the fact that, our rights could be so unabashedly trampled upon and no one's very upset at that, or even that that's routine, is extremely upsetting.
Civil liberties lawyers got 4,000 heavily censored pages of spying evidence from the FBI, and they are trying to get more. A Los Angeles gay activist is planning to publish those documents.
Tonight, a sunken freighter filled with radioactive cargo lies broken in two off the coast of Belgium. Rough seas tore that ship apart today. The Belgian government says the canisters of radioactive chemicals are still within the ship, but monitors for the environmental group Greenpeace say they saw containers floating around near the ship, plus an open, empty container washed up on shore 10 miles away. That ship sank 2 weeks ago. Lots of political action today, most of it centering on the White House. The president's mourning started with a ceremony honoring the late Hubert Humphrey. While Humphrey's widow listened, the president praised the Democratic warrior as a fine man and a patriot. And although Walter Mondale got his start with the Humphrey family, the former vice president did not attend that Rose Garden memorial. Mondale instead spent his day in Chicago, where he was quick to attack Reagan's plan to meet with Soviet Foreign Minister Andrei Gromyko. Not the meeting itself, but that it took so long to schedule it. The president announced that plan today after the story really was leaked late yesterday. The meeting takes place September 28th. It may effectively end criticism that Reagan won't talk to the Soviets. For Mondale, it means maybe losing some best ammunition.
He is the first president since Hoover not to meet with his Soviet counterpart. I'm glad it's finally happening, but measured against 4 years of the opposite and most dangerous trends, I think it's pathetic that we're just now having a meeting of this kind.
The president also announced today that he plans to allow the Soviets to buy an extra 10 million tons of much-needed grain this year. That, of course, good news for American farmers who have a bumper harvest in need of a buyer.
You know, Paul, it is easy to believe that the quagmire of U.S.-Soviet relations is better left to politicians. But an Alameda couple just may have a better idea. Gerald Crumlin and Anna Costa flew to Leningrad last week so that Anna could deliver their child in the Soviet Union. A healthy baby boy made his appearance almost as soon as they arrived. Baby Alexander is still an American citizen, but his father says he is also an expression of love, an expression he hopes that the Soviets will hear. More huge crowds as Pope John Paul II continues his visit to Canada. Today he told 55,000 young people gathered in Montreal they must above all love one another. And then he urged them to resist the temptation of drugs, alcohol, and premarital sex. Time now for weather. For that, we turn to Mark Thompson. Anything more to add on the hurricane?
Well, a couple of things I think that need to be emphasized. First of all, we've had calls from folks who have relatives back in the North Carolina area. The big cities, Greensboro, Winston-Salem, Charlotte, Fayetteville, I guess, the big areas around North Carolina are inland right now, not being affected by the brunt of the hurricane. That is the news for the moment. So it's likely if you have relatives in the Carolinas, unless they're in a coastal area, you're probably all right. That's good news. The other thing is that as long as this thing keeps spinning out there, that's the worst thing that can possibly happen, because as long as it's over water, it's feeding and has the possibility of intensifying. So with those two things in mind, let's keep an eye on it, and we'll promise you updates all day tomorrow, of course. Out tonight, things are fabulous in the Bay Area, and what would you expect this day after the full moon? Anything happened strange to you last night as a result of the full moon?
Strange things happened to me all
Every
the time,
night, yes.
Mark.
Okay, well, thank you very much for playing. All right. We'll hear about that later. 66 and 56, the extremes on the day in San Francisco. 70s in the East Bay, 80s in the South Bay. Look for a slow warming trend as the next couple of days roll around. Right now, temperatures in the 50s and 60s. Things should bottom out tonight for the most part. In the 50s and outlying areas, we'll get to the 40s, as is common this time of year. Look at these clouds. This isn't that common. This is the remnants of our own little tropical storm. It was once a hurricane, turned tropical storm, then depression. Now just a spinning mass of clouds out here and moisture. Marie, it threw some moisture back into the Southland. Almost a quarter of an inch of rain at Los Angeles today as a result of this moisture moving in. Most of it will stream into southern Nevada and Utah and on into the Rocky Mountains. Nothing for the Bay Area. We'll have the patchy coastal fog moving inland over the bay, nights and mornings next couple of days. But less fog and warmer temperatures over the next couple of days as we get a little bit of an offshore flow going. You can see just patchy fog at this hour around the bay. Meanwhile, here's how things shape up over the rest of the nation. This is Diana. I think we've talked all we can about Diana. We just have to wait to see what she can do. No one really knows at this point. It's very difficult to forecast that situation, and there are no forecasts. She's just spinning out there, all but stationary. Heavy rain, though, as a result of Diana's backwash through the mid-Atlantic states, rain through the northeast, and very warm through the southeast. Thunderstorms continue over the desert southwest. Meanwhile, if you are planning travel tomorrow, expect showers over the northern Great Lakes, heavy rain through the mid-Atlantic states again, very warm, hundreds through central and southern plains tomorrow, and fair skies, sunny and warm over much of the west. The forecast, patchy fog and low clouds tonight. Outlying areas to the 40s, but most areas will get to the 50s overnight tonight. And tomorrow, morning coastal fog. It'll be sunny, slightly warmer, and you'll notice the warming trend right through the end of the week. Warmest interior valley should get to the mid-80s and coastal areas to the 60s. 6:49 and 7:23 the sun times. 5-day forecast, patchy fog, mornings and evenings, with less fog and warmer temperatures towards the weekend, although not as hot as we had last weekend. Promise. That's how we see things for now. We'll update Diana and all the weather tomorrow.
Okey-doke. Thank you, Mark.
Bye-bye.
In tomorrow's news tonight, a report from the Contra Costa Times. The city of Concord has agreed to pay $330,000 in an out-of-court settlement to the family of a young man killed by a Concord policeman. 22-year-old Blaine McCall of Antioch was shot to death 7 years ago after a high-speed chase involving a police officer. The officer had been led to believe McCall was armed and dangerous through an erroneous call by a Sacramento County dispatcher. McCall was not armed.
A's and Giants both in action tonight. Giants going for number 6. Tom Nettles with the highlights coming up next.
$50,000 people here tomorrow. The Office Automation Expo.
This company is big in computers.
They're just announcing their first system. But one company has it all right now. Professional workstations, electronic printers, file servers, and they can all work together.
They've already installed more than 800 networks worldwide. What puts this company ahead of the others? Teamwork.
Jerry Redding, President and Director of Research for Nexus Products Company.
Nature itself is the ultimate miracle. It is here that the Nexus products for the hair and skin came to be. Is your hair brittle, oily, too thin? Ask your hairstylist for the Nexus formulation best suited to your particular hair and skin care needs. It took me over 50 years to find it, but it'll only take you a few pleasant moments at your favorite salon to discover the magic of Nexus for yourself.
I've been cooking chili for 20 years.
Well, I've been eating it for 25.
So we both know what makes Denison's chili great chili. It's those firm, tender beans.
It's that lean, juicy beef.
Larry, all you know about beef is roping it. People can get awfully hot over chili, but on one thing they do agree.
It's got to be rich
and thick, like Denison's. See how my fork stands up?
Fork? Now, who eats chili with a fork?
Denison's so thick and rich, there's no room for argument.
A's beat the White Sox again, and would you believe no fisticuffs?
No brawls, no bean balls, none of that sort of thing, Paul. Just a very smooth and quick ball game. Only 2 hours and 4 minutes. It took the A's behind Kurt Young's pitching. Final score was 4-1. We'll go to the highlights from the Coliseum. That's Lamar Hoyt pitching. Dave Kingman, of course, a familiar sight there. Cruz probably should have been an error. They gave him a base hit, RBI, number 114 for Kingman. Of course, he leads the American League. Bottom of the second inning, Vance Law home run off Young. That was the only damage. Goes over the fence, just left of the 397-foot sign. We go to the fifth. Billy Arman right here. RBI single through the hole between a shortstop and third base. A's got 2 more in the 8th. Young went 8 innings, gave up just 6 hits. He wins 8th game of the season against 4 losses. Bill Cottle got his 31st save. The win tonight moved the A's a game ahead of the White Sox into 4th place, still though 7 games behind the leaders, who once again are the Minnesota Twins. We'll go to the Metrodome for highlights of their game with the Royals. Twins, Kent Herbeck's 25th home run of the season, a real piece of entertainment. Now watch this. Mickey Hatcher will score ahead of him and then belly flop like a dying Gladys goose. He hits the thing, home run. Those 2 runs enough. Frank Viola right there cruising along, 6-hitter, 9 strikeouts, 5-1 final. Twins lead by 1. In Baltimore, the Detroit Tigers getting closer all the time to clinching the American League East. Yeah, ex-Giant Darrell Evans. Watch the catch in the bullpen. Nice grab right there. Home run number 16 for Evans. A night performer, Giants. Larry Herndon, home run number 5. Tigers win 9-2. They lead over Toronto, remained 11.5 games, 17 left to play. The Giants suffered a double indignity tonight. Not only did they lose to the Reds, stop their winning streak, but they also fell back into last place in the National League West. There are some of the events of the night. In the 5th inning, Reds leading 1-0. Reds manager Pete Rose with a double down the corner. He had 3 hits in the ball game tonight, folks. That's the 3rd 3-hit game he's had in a row. His batting average now 285. In the 6th, though, Chili Davis for the Giants. That's all the way out of there against Mario Soto, home run number 19. The Giants led it 3-2 as Chili walks in and tags. Bottom of the 6th, the Reds went ahead to stay, bases loaded. Soto himself helped him with the RBI. They're going to win it 7-3. National East, the focus in Chicago. Mike Schmidt getting an intentional walk, bases loaded for the Phillies. Top of the 9th inning. Now watch what happens. After Lynn Matuzik strikeout by Lee Smith right here, they get the pop-up, so there's 2 outs, and that sets up the dramatics. Auntie Virgil up against Lee Smith. He will ground it right past the pitcher. Watch the play by Tom Burreiser at shortstop for the Cubs. Yeah, nice throw, Tom. 2 runs come in on that one. Another one scores. It's 6-3 final. The Phillies, but the Mets lost 2, so the Cubs lead still 7. Hats off tonight. Have to go to the organizers of the Los Angeles Olympic Games. They said all along it'd be a profitable venture, but they had no idea how profitable. Today, they finished counting the money. The surplus, $150 million is what they made. Amazing success story, low-budget games, led by organizing committee chairman Peter Ubroth right there, of course, San Jose State graduate. No help from the government. They used existing facilities or got sponsors to do other ones. Free enterprise really at its best. The budget was $600 million. The games netted $750 million, so $150 million profit. And most of that money will go to amateur athletics here in this country. Mr. Ubroth's next job might be tougher. He starts as commissioner of baseball. Bill Kuhn quits after the World Series.
I don't think he'll have $150 million budget surplus.
Wow. Wayne Shannon up next with some corporate names in the news.
Just for you tonight, Bum and Coca-Cola.